We're often told that war is inevitable, a tragic, natural part of the human condition. This idea is repeated in textbooks, echoed in news reports, and passed down through generations, as if conflict is woven into the very fabric of our existence. This narrative is comforting but dangerously misleading. It offers a simple explanation for complex tragedies, allowing us to look away from the uncomfortable truth. It absolves us of responsibility, suggesting history is a force of nature, not a product of human choice. It whispers that we are powerless, mere spectators to the tides of fate. But every conflict, every famine, every genocide begins with a decision, made quietly, deliberately, by people. Behind every headline, there are individuals weighing options, making plans, and choosing a path. These are not acts of God, they are acts of men. The hands that sign orders, the voices that incite, the minds that strategize, these are all human. The language we use, ancient hatreds, ethnic tensions, humanitarian crises, obscures this truth. It makes violence seem like a storm that arrives unbidden, rather than a fire that is lit and fed. It frames mass atrocity as spontaneous, as if no one is responsible. But chaos is often the result of careful orchestration, not random chance. But look closer, the machinery of destruction is built and operated by individuals. Factories don't run themselves, armies don't mobilize on their own, and propaganda doesn't write itself. Choices to arm, incite, blockade, or stand by are all human decisions. Each step is a conscious act, a fork in the road where another path was possible. Recognizing this is the first step toward prevention. When we see the human hand behind the chaos, we begin to see the possibility of change. Before the first shot, there's planning. Propaganda crafted, speeches delivered, weapons stockpiled, alliances forged. The groundwork for violence is laid long before the world takes notice. These are calculated steps, not chaotic inevitabilities. Each one is a decision, a moment when someone could have chosen differently. Ignoring these warning signs is to ignore the blueprint of disaster. History is full of moments when warnings were sounded, but not heeded. The myth of inevitability serves perpetrators and bystanders alike. It allows leaders to deny agency and citizens to deny complicity. For perpetrators, it's a shield. We had no choice. History demanded it. This narrative cloaks ambition and cruelty in the language of destiny. For bystanders, it's an excuse. What could we have done? It was bound to happen. It soothes the conscience, but at a terrible cost. But history shows there were always choices, moments when intervention could have mattered. The world is full of crossroads, and the path taken is never the only one. Every war is a story of missed opportunities and failed responsibilities. The aftermath is a testament to what could have been prevented. Every disaster is a monument to human choice. The suffering that follows is not fate, but the result of decisions made and actions taken or not taken. The comfort of inevitability is a dangerous illusion. It lulls us into inaction, convincing us that nothing we do can make a difference. We must see the choices behind the chaos. Only by recognizing our power can we begin to change the story. Only then can we hope to prevent the next catastrophe. Prevention begins with awareness, and awareness begins with rejecting the myth of inevitability. The first step is to reject the myth that we are powerless. We must recognize that our actions, no matter how small, can shape the future. We are not passengers on history's current. We are not swept along by forces beyond our control. We are the ones steering the course. The direction we take is determined by the choices we make, both as individuals and as societies. The future is not written. It is a blank page, waiting for us to decide what story will be told. It is made by the choices we make today. In every moment, we hold the pen that writes tomorrow's history. Conflict rarely erupts spontaneously. It's often engineered through strategic provocation. Leaders create pretexts for war, goading adversaries into actions that justify retaliation. They light the fuse, then feign shock at the explosion. This tactic rallies domestic support and shifts blame for bloodshed. History is full of such manufactured incidents. Casus belli designed to make aggression look like self-defense. Today, provocation is central to modern conflict. Border skirmishes, funding insurgents, cyber attacks, disinformation. The logic is the same. Create a crisis to justify a predetermined solution. Provocation can corner a rival, making them believe striking first is their only option. The provocateur then claims victimhood, validating their aggression. It's a vicious cycle, fueled by cynicism and disregard for life. The first casualty isn't truth, it's the possibility of peace. Recognizing provocation is key to breaking this cycle. Only then can we challenge the narratives that lead to war. The path to World War II was paved with calculated provocations, each step a test of the world's willingness to enforce the peace established after the First World War. The Treaty of Versailles, meant to prevent future conflict, instead left deep resentments and unresolved tensions simmering across Europe. Hitler tested the world's resolve step by step, remilitarizing the Rhineland, annexing Austria, seizing the Sudetenland. Each move was a calculated gamble, probing for weakness among the former victors. Each move was a deliberate violation, met with appeasement, not resistance. Leaders hoped that by conceding they could avoid another devastating war, but their reluctance only encouraged further aggression. This emboldened further aggression, dismantling the post-World War I order and exposing the fragility of international agreements when not backed by collective will. Today, great powers avoid direct conflict by fighting through proxies, shifting the battlefield to distant lands while keeping their own forces out of direct confrontation. They arm and fund local factions in places like Syria, fueling conflicts that serve their interest while keeping their own casualties low. Yemen and Ukraine have become battlegrounds for these shadow wars, where outside powers pull the strings behind the scenes. These wars are often framed as internal disputes, masking the true scale of foreign involvement and the global stakes at play. But the hand of the puppet master is visible. Advanced weapons, diplomatic cover, intelligence support, and strategic planning all point to a much larger game. Civilians are collateral in a larger strategic game, their lives upended by decisions made far from the front lines. The goal isn't always victory, but to bleed rivals and prolong chaos, draining resources and willpower over years or even decades. The war itself becomes the message, a signal sent through destruction and displacement, warning others of the costs of defiance. Modern proxy wars are provocations by other means, with human suffering discounted and the true cost hidden behind layers of plausible deniability. The battlefield is outsourced, but the responsibility remains. The architects of these conflicts rarely face the consequences. In the end, the cost is paid by the innocent, families torn apart, futures destroyed, and generations left to rebuild from the ashes of someone else's war. The Holocaust was not an eruption of ancient hatreds or an unavoidable tragedy. It was a state-engineered, bureaucratically managed project of mass murder. It began with words, dehumanization, propaganda, laws stripping rights. Each step was a choice, making the next atrocity seem logical. The final solution was planned by educated officials, executed with chilling efficiency. Genocide is not spontaneous, it's a process with warning signs and points of intervention. The Holocaust warns us, modern states can become instruments of genocide. Ordinary people under propaganda and bureaucracy can become complicit. To call it fate is to ignore the evidence of deliberate planning. Genocide is always a human enterprise. In modern wars, the line between combatant and civilian is deliberately blurred. Civilian harm is often a direct result of calculated strategies, not mere accident. Collateral damage masks choices that prioritize military goals over human life. Bombed hospitals, shelled schools, and targeted infrastructure are rarely mistakes. They're predictable outcomes. In Ukraine, Russian bombardment of cities was a strategy of terror, not error. Destroying civilian infrastructure is a choice to weaponize suffering. In Gaza, massive bombardments in dense areas make civilian casualties a certainty. Delays in aid are policy decisions, not logistical accidents. Siege tactics and denial of essentials are modern forms of ancient cruelty. Images of starving children are not chaos, they're the result of deliberate policies. Suffering is weaponized and responsibility is clear. We must see the choices behind the devastation. Proxy wars are the defining conflicts of our era, outsourced battles where civilian suffering is strategic. Humanitarian crises become tools to generate sympathy, pressure rivals, or destabilize regions. In Syria, foreign powers fueled conflict, prolonging suffering for strategic gain. Deliberate targeting of hospitals and markets aimed to depopulate and destabilize. In Yemen, blockade and airstrikes created famine and collapsed healthcare, a choice, not an accident. Suffering was instrumental, not collateral. External powers maintain distance, but their support fuels the fire. Civilians pay the price for decisions made in distant capitals. Their tragedy is a tool in a geopolitical game. Suffering as strategy is a profound moral failure. We must recognize and reject this logic. War isn't just fought with weapons, it's waged economically. Sanctions and blockades are sold as humane alternatives but often inflict collective punishment. Broad sanctions cripple economies, collapse services, and cause widespread suffering. The most vulnerable, children, the sick, the poor, bear the brunt. Blockades, like in Gaza, create permanent humanitarian crises by design. These policies are choices, not accidents. The logic pressure the population to turn against rulers, but often it only strengthens authoritarian grip. Civilians are trapped between repressive regimes and external pressure. Economic warfare punishes the innocent, deepening misery. The suffering is predictable and intended. We must see economic war for what it is, a silent siege on civilians. Manufactured disasters don't emerge from a vacuum. They're links in a chain of past failures and choices. Rwanda and Bosnia taught the world about mass atrocity and international paralysis. In Rwanda, peacekeepers were ordered not to intervene. In Bosnia, safe areas became killing fields. Choices in global capitals prioritized stability over justice, leading to mass graves. Never again was the promise, but the pattern repeats. Syria, Yemen, Gaza. Dehumanization, geopolitical calculation, and risk aversion fuel the chain. Each new crisis exposes the fragility of our commitment to human rights. Failure to act emboldens future perpetrators. They learn from our inaction and see impunity. The chain is unbroken until we choose to break it. Complicity is a choice, not a fate. The lesson in action is never neutral. There's a deep urge to blame tragedy on fate, war as destiny, genocide as ancient hatred. This narrative comforts, but it's an excuse for inaction. It absolves leaders and citizens alike. We must reject this comfort. Every conflict is the result of identifiable choices. Funding militias, spreading hate, signing deportation orders, looking away. These are not mystical forces. They're human actions. To unmask the choices is to restore agency and responsibility. When we see suffering, we must see the choices behind it. The blockade, the doctrine, the policies. Stripping away the language of fate brings moral clarity. Humanity is not adrift. We are the architects of our world. Our disasters are not destiny, they are failures. Seeing the choices is the first step to change. Responsibility begins with seeing clearly. Recognizing that conflict is a result of human choice is not despair. It's a call to action. It's a reminder that we have the power to shape our world, to steer it towards justice and peace. Every decision we make, every action we take, contributes to the larger tapestry of human history. If disasters are made by us, they can be unmade by us. This means that our efforts, no matter how small, can lead to significant change. Rebuilding is not just about physical structures, but about restoring hope and dignity. Acknowledging agency moves us from fatalism to responsibility. It empowers us to take charge, to be proactive rather than reactive. It's about understanding that our voices and actions matter. The future is unwritten, it's shaped by today's decisions. Every choice we make today lays the foundation for tomorrow. It's a collective effort, a shared responsibility to create a better world. This means investing in early warning, challenging dehumanization, and holding leaders accountable. It's about being vigilant and proactive, ensuring that we prevent crises before they escalate. It means refusing to accept civilian suffering as a tool of statecraft. We must stand against the normalization of violence and advocate for the protection of innocent lives. The capacity for failure is immense, but so is the capacity for moral courage. In the face of adversity, it's our courage and compassion that define us. For every perpetrator, there are rescuers. For every bystander, upstanders. It's a testament to the resilience and goodness that exists within humanity. Acts of dissent, aid, and witness affirm our shared humanity. They remind us that we are all connected, that our actions have ripple effects far beyond our immediate surroundings. The struggle is for memory against forgetting, agency against fate. It's about preserving the lessons of the past and using them to guide our future actions. We must refuse to normalize suffering or explain it away. Instead, we should confront it head-on, seeking solutions and demanding justice. See the choices, the plans, the policies behind the headlines. Understand that behind every news story there are decisions and actions that have shaped the outcome. The cost of inaction is always greater. When we fail to act, we allow suffering and injustice to persist and grow. Justice does not happen on its own. It must be willed into being. It requires our active participation and unwavering commitment. Our world is what we choose to make it. Together, through our collective efforts, we can create a future that is just, compassionate, and filled with hope.